everyone. Welcome to today's Pet Pawcast. I'm your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook. Thank you for joining us here at the Campus for All Animals, the Houston SPCA. So, it's cold. I don't know what happened to our sunny weather, but it turned cold and it looks like we're going through a little second winter here. And this is sleeping weather. This is weather that makes you just want to be curled up in the bed with your dog or your cat or your guinea pig or ferret or whatever you've got at home. And we are going to talk about sleeping habits in your pets today. So all things sleep. Let's take a nap. So we'll talk about sleeping patterns and we'll talk about sleeping disorders and pros and cons of letting your pet sleep with you. So if you have any questions about sleep patterns or habits with you and your pet, please don't hesitate to put those in the chat. I'll see if I can help you. In the meantime, I want you to continue to think about coming on down and take a look at all of our adoptable pets at our adoption center. I do want to introduce you to a wonderful dog named Precious. Precious is our pet of the week this week. Precious is about a 2-year-old hound mix. She's female, she is spayed, she's got all of her shots and microchip. She is ready to go. She's very sweet, very loving, a very good dog that'll make someone a wonderful family pet. So please come on down and take a look at Precious. Precious has been with us for about 70 days or so. So, sometimes when dogs are here for a long time, we like to give them a little bit of show time so that people can see how wonderful they are. She's really, really a wonderful dog. And I think she's just been overlooked. We've got lots of wonderful dogs here, but it's time for her to shine. It's time for her to find her forever home. So please come on down, take a look. We are open every day from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's no appointment necessary. You should just come on in and let our adoptions team know which animal you're interested in meeting with and potentially taking home to be part of your family. Okay, well, let's get started because, again, we're talking about sleeping habits and sleeping patterns with your pet. So if you're anything like me, you have probably had your pet want to sleep with you or get on the bed with you or get on the couch with you. And there's lots of pros and cons that go along with sleeping with your pet. So we'll talk about it. One of the things we can talk about is sleeping patterns. So, pets have different sleeping patterns. Different species have different patterns. And what I mean by the sleeping patterns are the amounts of time they spend sleeping throughout the day. So we humans, the rule, we like to get about 8 hours of sleep every night. But when we are talking about dogs and cats, puppies and senior dogs, so the very young puppies and the very old puppies, they tend to want to sleep much longer. So when we're talking about sleeping much longer, we're talking about puppies sleeping for about 18 to 20 hours a day. 18 to 20 hours a day. So they love to get lots and lots of sleep. And then they like to have bursts of energy in between. That's also for senior dogs, geriatric dogs, where they love to also get about 18 to 20 hours of sleep. They may not be as active in those in-between times, but the very young and the very old tend to sleep longer throughout the day. And then those animals that are in the middle, the young adults, they tend to get about 14 hours of sleep a day, 12 to 14. So let me help you with any other questions you have about sleep patterns.
Can they ever sleep too much, or when should it be of concern?
Yeah, that's a great question. So can your pet sleep too much? Is that a concern? I would say if you are noticing that when your pet is awake, that they also just seem kind of tired and lethargic, that could be an indication that they need to see a veterinarian. So sleeping comfortably for long periods of time is okay. But if during those awake times, your pet is particularly lethargic, not interacting with you, not wanting to eat or drink, if those time periods of being awake are abnormal, I would say visit your veterinarian and let's make sure there's not something health-wise that's going on.
And are there any sleep disorders for pets?
That's a really good question. What sorts of sleep disorders do we find in our pets? This is kind of unique because it's not very common, but there are some sleep disorders that we find in dogs and cats and even goats, but they're not very common. So the first one that you might be wondering about, because we see it in people, and that's narcolepsy. So narcolepsy is when you will have a pet, typically a dog, although again, it's not common, that tends to collapse and just fall over in what looks like a deep sleep after periods of excitement. And this is because of a congenital and genetic disorder. So it is something that they are born with. It's because of an abnormal chemical in their body, low levels of a chemical in their body that should be keeping them awake. And because they have low levels of this chemical, they tend to have periods of excitement. That chemical gets used up and now they collapse into a sleep. And sometimes it could take them a few minutes to get their energy back. So this actually is common in certain breeds as well. So dachshunds and Labradors and even miniature poodles can have narcolepsy. So if you notice that your pet is playing a lot and then having periods of collapse, then that certainly could be narcolepsy. Please visit your veterinarian. There's another similar condition where your pet can seem to fall over, but they are still awake. They still seem alert and aware of their surroundings, but they seem sort of frozen. We call that cataplexy. So if you're noticing something like that, where your pet seems to just fall over but still be alert, that can be termed cataplexy, a slightly different disorder, but still can be found in conjunction with narcolepsy in some pets.
And is cataplexy just for cats, or is it just in the name?
No, yeah, exactly. It's a great question. It's just in the name. So it can be in goats and dogs. So certainly can see it in other species.
Is it normal for dogs to snore a lot?
Oh, the snoring. Yes. You know, if you have a sleeping partner that is snoring a lot, it certainly can affect you and even your pet's sleep, the snoring. So when does that occur? So there's lots of reasons for snoring to occur. And in some breeds, it is normal, but there's still a level of snoring that's outside of normal where you might want to seek some medical attention. So when might snoring occur? It might occur when your pet is sleeping on his or her back, because when they sleep on their back, sometimes the tongue will drop to the back of the throat and obstruct the airflow, and so that will create snoring. Sometimes overweight pets will snore more than others. If your pet has allergies or an illness, particularly allergies or a respiratory illness where the nasal passages might be swollen or irritated, that can lead to snoring as well. And then, of course, any breed of dog or cat that has a very short nose, the brachycephalic breeds, they tend to snore as well. So these would be conditions where you might see your pet snore. Again, and this could be normal for some brachycephalic breeds, but if it's becoming significant enough where you're finding that your pet is uncomfortable, they cannot get comfortable, they don't seem rested, they tend to wake up throughout the night, then it may be something that you talk to your veterinarian about, because there can be surgical procedures that we can do to help to reduce the amount of snoring that occurs. So particularly in brachycephalic animals, we can do surgery on the nose to sort of open up the nasal passages so that they're wider and they let more air through. We can also do surgery on the soft palate. So the soft palate is at the back part of the roof of the mouth. It's the very back part. And sometimes the soft palate is a little bit longer than it should be. And so the extra tissue obstructs airflow into the throat. That extra tissue kind of drops down into the back of the throat and obstructs airflow. Those surgical procedures can be done relatively quickly and easily and safely. And so those might be options if you're noticing that your pet is not resting comfortably throughout the night. Talk to your veterinarian about what some options are.
And of course, usually if a dog is sleeping, we kind of see it like move its little paws. And so does that mean they're like sleeping, but they're being active?
Yeah. So what are they doing when your dog is sleeping and you see them sort of moving, like they look like they're running or swimming while they're asleep? You know, it is proven that your pets can be in a very deep REM sleep, where we suspect that they are having the same experience that people have when we are in a deep sleep as well. So what may be happening is they're in a deep sleep and they are actually reliving and dreaming about some of the events that happen throughout the day, or sometimes new events. So when you see your pet, running or swimming or moving their limbs while they're sleeping, you might notice that behind their eyelids, the eyes are moving rapidly back and forth. You might notice that they bark in their sleep or whine. I've had my dog do that, where she's sleeping and she starts, barking and growling and running in her sleep, and you're just wondering what they're dreaming about. We do have every reason to believe that the part of the brain that is controlling our dreams is the same in our pets as it is in people. And so we certainly believe that they have the ability to dream and that they do dream, and that those dreams are very similar to people, which is, what happened throughout the day. And so they kind of relive those moments while they're sleeping. So when you see that happening in your dog, don't be alarmed. Now, there is something called REM, behavior disorder. So when you're noticing that your pet is asleep, but they're having an abnormal response to that sleep pattern, where they're becoming aggressive or so active that they're actually sleepwalking and running into things or trying to bite. If you're noticing that the behavior during their sleep time is aggressive or excessive, please, again, contact your veterinarian, because there may be medications that we can prescribe to help your pet rest more comfortably and not have such exaggerated responses to that REM sleep.
And we had Ashley on Facebook ask, if my 18-year-old Chihuahua insists on sleeping with us in the bed, is that a problem?
Yeah, is it a problem to have your pet sleeping? So we talked about that. What are the pros and cons of co-sleeping? So certainly if your Chihuahua has slept with you for an extended period of time, or maybe he or she has done that their whole life, they may continue to insist on doing that because that's what they're used to. It's what they're comfortable doing. But let's talk about some of the pros. The pros are, there has been some research that proves that if you're sleeping with your pet, sometimes both of you have much better and more comfortable sleep. The comfort, having that warmth there, having another body there, it can provide some comfort. So there's some pros to that. Providing mental health can help. And then there's also some cons. So if you're not getting sleep because the pet that you're sleeping with is loud at night, or moving around, or circling, or sleeping on top of you, or trampling on your face, or doing something that's causing you not to get sleep and they're not getting sleep, that certainly can be a con. And you may want to consider retraining your pet to sleep in a more comfortable area. And they may be used to sleeping with you and your smell and the heat of your body. So what you could do if you're trying to get your 18-year-old Chihuahua to sleep in a different location, I would recommend taking an old t-shirt or clothing that you are used to wearing, a blanket that you typically use that has your scent on it, maybe your spouse's scent on it, and put that in a nice, comfortable, fluffy bed. You could potentially even do that on your personal bed. I've had an experience where, I wanted my dog to be in the bed, so I got a clean dog bed, and I put the dog bed on my bed, then covered the dog bed with some scents of myself, like a t-shirt. So then for cleanliness purposes and comfort purposes, now the dog is lying in a clean dog bed on your bed in the comfort of a t-shirt that may be warm. That might be an option, and then you can transition that bed to the floor. And once they're on the floor, then you've done it. So that might be an option. Yeah, that might be an option.
And obviously, I think it's important to mention, making sure that they're up to date on their fleas and ticks medication as well for the sanity of ours.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So having your pet sleep in the bed, again, could be beneficial from a mental health standpoint and a comfort standpoint, but you want to make sure that health-wise that you're doing the right thing too. So making sure your pet is well groomed and bathed and clean. I know we all say, when you have pets, the germs and the types of bacteria change in your home. And so sometimes exposing yourself to different types of bacteria can help to boost your immune system. And overall, it could be beneficial. But you want to make sure that you're keeping your pet clean and that you're using safe and hygienic practices. So that means keeping your pet groomed and bathed. That also means making sure that they're on flea and tick prevention. You do not want to get a flea or tick infestation in your bed. You don't want to get flea or tick bites on your body. And so you want to make sure that they are current on their vaccines, flea, tick prevention, that they don't have any urine or fecal material around their tail or on their paws, because we want to keep those bacterial levels down for the safety of the people in the home.
And, if they do sleep with us, you mentioned they're getting all up in our pillows and stuff. Does it promote aggression or dominance if we let them sleep on the bed or a specific position?
That's a great question. Not for every dog. There's certainly some dogs that tend to have territorial aggression. So if they have now decided that the pillow or that side of the bed or that portion of the bed is their territory, then certainly once you ask them to move or you encroach on that territory, they can become aggressive. But that's not every dog, because not every dog has a territorial aggression or has a propensity for that. So it could be perfectly fine depending on your pet. If you're noticing that that's happening, I would say contact your veterinarian and probably even a veterinary behaviorist, because they can teach you how to get that territorial aggression down and how to rectify it so that there's no injuries that occur because of that.
And is it true that the sleeping position tells us anything about how a dog's feeling, or is that more of a myth?
Oh, sure. There certainly are some ideas about the sleeping position that your pets are in and what that can mean. So, if you have a dog like my dog that curls up sort of tight in the donut, sometimes that means that they're protecting themselves. It could also just mean that they're providing a little comfort for themselves. Is very comforting the tighter that they get. So it could be a protective measure, a comforting measure, the tighter that they are. A lot of dogs, when they're very, very relaxed and feeling sort of very comfortable, they will lie on their side with their legs stretched out. It can be viewed as somewhat of a vulnerable position, and so often they'll do this when they're very tired and very relaxed. Some dogs will sleep sort of sternally with their paws right on either side of their head and their legs stretched out, and that tends to be more of a ready position where they are taking a nap, but it tends to be like a light nap and they're ready to jump up and play or get back to their day right away. So yes, those different sleeping positions can mean different things depending on how your pet is feeling at the time, just like it is for humans.
And then why do some dogs, dig and circle around to find a comfortable spot? Is there any science behind that?
It's equivalent, I think, to what we do when we are trying to get comfortable, and we sort of roll around and we fluff up our pillow and flip it and turn it, and you try different positions. They do the same thing when they're trying to sleep. Some of this is also primitive. It's part of when they are, historically, when pets were in the wild, when dogs were in the wild, they may circle in order not only to create a comfortable place to sleep, because they're flattening out the grass and they're kind of making themselves a nice little bed, but it also gives them an opportunity to make sure that there's no dangerous snakes or rodents that are in that area. It also helps them to create scent in that area. So as they stomp around in that area and they flatten out the grass, they're also spreading their scent, and that can be a way that they can sort of claim that territory. Mm-hmm. But essentially, they're just making the area a little bit more comfortable. They're flattening out the grass. They're positioning themselves in a way that makes them less vulnerable to predators that might sneak up on them.
And then our cats, of course,
yes.
They're more active at night. Any tips to help us get a good night's rest?
Yes, they are. So we may have all experienced trying to get a good night's rest, and your kittens and cats are bouncing all over the place. So yes, having a routine, it can be hard, but having a routine for the cats to try to calm them down can help. So, quiet time, it may help that if you don't have them in your immediate space, that will help. So not giving your cats access to your bedroom. If they're going to be very active at night and they're going to be running all over the bed and bouncing off the walls, you may want to give them access to only a certain part of the home so they can be as active as they want while you can still get your sleep. You also want to have a routine that sort of winds them down at the end of the day. So make sure that they're fed and watered, and you have a routine that sort of tells them this is going to be quiet time. You can play music and you can use scents and things like that to try to help keep your cats calm when it becomes bedtime.
And another question for cats, is it normal for them to sleep on their litter box? Is just because they're not used to sleeping on a bed?
Yeah, so cats love little hiding places. They love boxes to sleep in and to hide in. And so if they don't have another option, sometimes they will choose the litter box. I would say if you're noticing that your cat is sleeping in the litter box, give them another box to sleep in. They're just looking for a nice little comfortable cubby hole to sleep in. Give them another box to sleep in. The other potential problem that could be going on, which hopefully is not true, is that sometimes cats will sleep in the litter box if they don't feel well, if they're ill. It's just sort of a sign that they just don't even feel well enough to get out of the litter box. They just kind of want to, be alone. I would say give them plenty of opportunity to hide, plenty of other boxes when you shop at Amazon, you get all your Amazon boxes in, you empty one of them out and leave it for your cat to kind of use as a little cubby.
That's true. I know my dog, usually it likes to sleep on the floor next to the bed, but is it sometimes good to buy a therapeutic bed, maybe for older pets?
Yeah, I think that's good too. The nice thick therapeutic beds are especially good for large breed dogs and dogs that are older and have arthritis, just because they provide more support for the joints. But this could be for small dogs too that have arthritis as well. So when you have dogs that are sleeping on the floor on a harder surface, particularly larger dogs, they have a lot of weight that's placed on the bony prominences of their hips and of their knees, their stifle, of their ankles, of their elbows. And sometimes these bony prominences, when they're constantly lying on hard surfaces, they'll become rough, they'll become irritated. Sometimes they even get swellings over those bony prominences because of the repeated, even the trauma of lying on the hard floor is soft. Sometimes they'll get swellings in those areas. So a nice thick therapeutic bed might be good if you have a large breed dog or particularly a senior dog that has arthritis.
And for dogs, should we expect them to hold their potty throughout the night, or does that vary with age?
Yes, sleeping habits, that's a really good thing because you want to get sleep throughout the night. And you want your pets to get sleep throughout the night. So if you have a dog or a puppy who's not sleeping throughout the night because they have to go potty, it affects both of your sleep habits. And so you want that to be protected. So what can you do? I would recommend removing food and drink at least 2 hours before bedtime. So they can have it up until 2 hours before bedtime and then take them outside to go walking. Let going on a walk to empty the bladder and the bowels be sort of the last thing that they do before they go into their kennel for night. That way the bladder's empty, the bowels are empty, and they're not likely to have to go in about an 8 to 10 hour period. It's fairly reasonable to expect an already potty trained dog to be able to go 8 to 10 hours before they need to go again. Now, if you're talking about a puppy, sometimes puppies need to go out a little bit more frequently, every 2 to 4 hours. But again, at the last moment before they're going to bed, take away food and water about 2 hours before, take them out to go potty if they're able to go out to go potty, and let that be the last thing. It looks like Precious is taking a nap too. I want to take a nap too, Precious. We'll curl up down there with you. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you get some good rest tonight and that your pets don't disturb you. And if they are sleeping with you, that you guys have a good sleep cuddle tonight in this cold weather. So consider coming on down to visit us here at the Houston SPCA. We appreciate you being part of the Pet Podcast every Friday, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much.